Good afternoon and welcome. Kent Bame with Elevate Chat. With us this afternoon, we have Clark with Rainmaker. Clark, welcome, and please introduce yourself and share a little bit about your company and yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Kent, and thanks for having me on. It's I always enjoy doing these discussions, and we get to talk about our journey. So my name is Clark Gruey. Difficult last name to pronounce, but unless you're based in Edmonton, where a lot of my family immigrated to 100 years ago. But the company that we started 15 years ago, myself and my business partners, Lois Mitchell and Tim Cosmic, started in 2007, is Rainmaker Global Market Access, and started right here in Alberta, right here in Calgary, and really actually started with the whole idea that companies coming into Alberta needed help to get established and to get connected and to meet the right people and just network in, because we were seeing so many companies come into our country and our province that were having problems with that. So Rainmaker was designed by myself and my two partners to help them be successful in Alberta, help them be successful in Canada as they came in from all over the world.
Fantastic. That's cool. I don't know, you got me stumped there. I'm going, well, no, I mean, I moved here in 97. I think about what Calgary looked like in 1997. I think we're about 650,000 people. Here we are 20 years later, 1.2, 1.3 million. So I could not, and even in 1997, it would probably still back then was quote unquote, very much a old boys club, right? Oil and gas type market. So can you share, I wanted you to share a little bit about that and kind of what your experience was in helping people navigate those relationships. I would imagine is probably almost in a way, kind of almost movie-esque with those tight relationships.
Yeah, so it's just to be clear on the stats. So we started in 2007, just in case I did that.
That's okay. Yep.
But we moved here in '98 from Toronto. My wife and I, like many did, came to Calgary for the opportunity that it was. Didn't know what we were walking into. Grew up in BC, and then we went to Toronto for a couple of years, and came to Calgary with a job and kind of went, okay, we'll give this a shot, and fell in love with it, fell in love with the town, the city, the people. And you're right, Kent, it was smaller then. It was a very tight community. You still heard about things like the Olympics being hosted, 10 years earlier. And so there was a tremendous amount of pride in the community in Calgary back then. I was blown away by it, actually, how warm and welcoming Calgary was at the time. I think it's grown up a lot since then in many ways, and like you say, it's doubled basically in population since those days. And a lot of those people came from somewhere else. So I find Calgary to be a really interesting ecosystem of people from primarily across Canada and increasingly more immigrants, so international people that are in Calgary now that have come here really on purpose. It's a destination for a purpose. It's a destination to start your family or build your career or to achieve something, and that generates a really interesting ecosystem in the city, and frankly in the province, but in the city for sure, of people who are trying to make stuff happen, trying to it's got that new money smell sort of idea, right? Not like some other cities in our country. So it makes an interesting business community that, I'm sure a lot of your audience, they're part of that. They're part of trying to make an interesting life for themselves, an interesting go, right?
Absolutely. Thank you. So in your current model, what's an ideal client?
Yeah, so our current model, our model shifted a bit from 2007 to 2000. We've ridden the roller coaster of Calgary and Alberta over the years. The ups and downs of the ups of 14s, the downs of 16. And so we've rode it through. And where our company's evolved and changed a number of times, but the most fundamental one was we shifted our model from inbound clients, so a lot of international companies trying to come into Alberta or Canada, to outbound. So now we work with a lot more local companies or Canadian companies who are trying to expand global markets. So Canadians aren't typically great exporters. We typically aren't don't think that way. We're not really designed that way. We might sell something to some people in the States, but that's about as far as we take it often. And this was actually identified about 20 years ago as a real problem for Canada, and one that the federal government was trying desperately to help change. So in 2020, Rainmaker kind of shifted our model a little bit to go outbound. So now we work with a lot of companies across Canada as they decide and strategize where they want to go in the world, where should they go and expand their markets. And what I love about our work, Kent, is always when you talk to government about this, they think, oh, you're helping companies move out of Alberta or move out of BC. Right? Not the case. Canadians don't typically want to leave Canada. They want to grow their business, by creating another market, in Washington State or something, but they don't necessarily want to pack up and leave very often. So we actually help them, our mantra is to help them grow their business somewhere else so they can create jobs here. So that's what we end up doing a lot of, which is great work. And as far as what types of companies, we've actually, much of our work early days was oil field services, oil and gas related, energy related. But it's broadened a lot in the last 5 years. So we definitely are far more diverse in our. We've got a coffee company in Vancouver that we're taking down into California. We've got a clothing manufacturer, really cool clothing manufacturer here in Calgary, trying to break into markets in the eastern U.S. We've got a carbon capture company that makes hand soap that's going to the UK. So we get a lot of different types of companies, which I love. I love the fact that we can help them through the process of the steps they need to take in order to have success internationally.
The fun question I have, as I watch you sparkle in and share your passion, I think I know the answer, but I want you to share it. Is your business in finish mode or dream mode?
Neither.
Oh.
I see, and I really see Rainmaker. It's been a great lot of fun so far, and we love what we do. But it's really quite, it's solidified now. We've got repeatable processes, we've got repeatable services we do over and over and over again. So it's not really in creative mode, but it's in it. I'm not sure if it'll ever be finished. I don't know if we'll ever get to a point where it's finished. So just because it evolves so much, and I'm sure it is for every business out there. Your world evolves so quickly. Rainmaker is no different. We get bumped by the market dynamics all the time as well, and sometimes we get bumped into cool opportunities, and sometimes we get bumped out of them. But we get bumped, and so we end up adjusting all the time. We had a meeting today about one of the growth strategies we're working on with another partner to add a full-on creative division within Rainmaker. So to the whole web development side of the equation, et cetera, communications, bringing that in-house. And we talked about exit strategy, and it was a challenge for us because we don't see a clear exit strategy. So we want to build something very dynamic and global and energetic. So, well, at least until this guy is not around.
Well, it's a fun question because in doing these interviews and reaching out, it's the part of the business that's my favorite, because for me, I very much believe that business is a vehicle in a way that it can deliver something we want. And so, you meet business owners who get to a point, whether it be age, revenue, wealth, and they kind of go, I want something next, right? So there is sort of that finish idea, but at the same time, you meet 50, 60, 70% of the people, they're going, it's kind of like, I don't want to finish.
Yeah.
But I know I'm going to run out of time, right?
Sure.
But I have to find out how to succession. I want my business to go past me. And I think that's probably where that question comes from is it may not be finished for you, but how do you now take on that next leadership team and cast that vision to the management and let them grow it past us?
Yeah. No, you're exactly right, Ken. I couldn't agree more. So that's exactly where this conversation went today, as well as we put our leaders in place in our different service pillars. I'm 56 years old. So, I mean, I'm in the back nine, if you want to call it that. We need those leaders that are in their 30s and 40s who really have a passion for what it is Rainmaker does, which is, global business and expansion. And there's some great young people that love this space, right? But they aren't necessarily trained up you're a business coach, you know what this is all about, trained up to help businesses do it. They just love the sometimes just love the idea of it. And sometimes they're really passionate about it. And those passionate ones, to get them in and to start to see them, learn some more of the sort of process pieces and the strategy side. It's quite invigorating, actually. So we love the idea of handing off Rainmaker to that next generation and seeing what they can do with it, because the world's going to look different to them. In 10 years, I can't imagine, Kent, like what challenges they're going to be dealing with that we can't even see yet.
I look back over 15 years of coaching, even the last 10, how much has changed, whether it be the city, economics, political landscape, and technology, how we can do so much different and better. It's amazing to me. And I guess in one aspect, I never thought used to hear my senior people go, just wait, when you're there, it'll be different. It's like, no, it's just business. But now I'm that guy going, just wait, it'll be different.
Of course.
And so it's fun. Can you speak briefly just on COVID and what the impact was on your business, whether it be culture, what changes did you have to make, or how you guys navigated to strengthen the culture of the team, and if there was any lessons we can take away from that to share with the audience?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, COVID has been a major black swan in many people's worlds. For us, we grew through COVID in one sense, which was good. We have different businesses. So we have a downtown business center. So we have a floor of office space that we run, and we rent out offices or virtual offices and so on. So that business, of course, got absolutely nailed. Like it was awful. And it was already not great after 16. So, it was a really thriving business for many years, and then really started to fall off. But then, of course, with COVID, it was a direct impact. And the one thing that I really got out of it, though, Kent, was, I have to say our clients were great, because some people stayed on as clients and never came to the office for 2 years. And wow. they kept paying their rent. It's like, wow, like these people were amazing. Like our clients were absolutely amazing. They stayed with us. They were, we cut deals with them, obviously, to, try to do what we could to make it work for them and still be able to pay our lease. And our landlord worked with us. So it was an interesting dynamic, kind of everybody in the same boat sort of dynamic, but the business suffered tremendously. But the consulting side, and as companies now people couldn't travel, but they still wanted access to these other markets, our business started to take off, and really that side of it grew dramatically. So we had just a tale of two stories sort of thing. And it's still working itself out on the office space side. I tell you, it's a difficult business, and trying to figure out how people want to work, where they want to work and how they want to work has totally changed. So but before COVID, you and I probably wouldn't have had this interview like this. We would have met somewhere, and it would just been different. So the ability to do this and to communicate differently has been very, very positive and a challenge.
Thank you. Who do you seek counsel from? And I don't necessarily want from a business coach, but more in the years you've been in business, has outside counsel been important? And I say that because I wrote an article about 10 years ago, as I had and met different people. I saw this trend with a lot of successful people, that there was always a mentor, a coach, sometimes an accountant, a lawyer, a business coach, a dad, a business partner that kind of helps. So have you, and then I met a guy a month ago who's had zero, took a business from 0 to 60 million with literally bootstrapped, mental fortitude, with really not a lot of outside counsel. And I kind of go, man, God bless you. Have you had those kind of moments where you kind of did it on your own? And have you had those moments now? And what does it look like now to have quote unquote outside counsel or mentorship or whatever you call it?
Great question. And I've been on both sides of that, and certainly absolutely had some amazing mentors in my career. There's no question. When I first came to Calgary about a year in, I was lucky enough to be tapped on the shoulder to start the British government's office here in Alberta, which was a tremendous opportunity for me. But my boss, who was in Vancouver, who was truly one of my top mentors in my career ever, when I was with the British government. But he said to me, there's two couples that you have to meet in Calgary if you want to get anything done at all. And I, so of course I was following his lead, and it was Doug and Lois Mitchell and Ron and Mark Southern. And so two of the, some of the first peoples I met as movers and shakers in this city were truly movers and shakers. So to be mentored,
that's pretty rare territory.
It was amazing. And I mean, I sat in those rooms and those meetings and didn't say much. I just listened. But they're and Lois Mitchell is a business partner to today. So she still mentors me. And she just actually was calling while we're talking here, Ken. So these people are so I have found them so valuable and so important in my own personal career. But then even with regards to the business and Rainmaker, having folks who have supported Rainmaker and helped us along and invited me into certain rooms. So Perrin Beatty, who runs the Canadian Chamber of Commerce out of Ottawa, got to know Perrin through Lois and so on. And Perrin invited me to sit on a G20 committee, which got me into meetings, into B20 meetings, and that I could never have imagined being part of. But if Perrin hadn't said, yeah, Clark, would you do this, and take a chance on me, it wouldn't have happened. So I totally, but I mean, the story you told of someone who did it all on his own is amazing to me. I don't know how he did it, but I think it's so valuable. I now try to pass that on, of course, to the next generation, help people where I can to get their careers going, their business going. But I think it's critical, Kent, and having outside eyes, outside impressions and contacts is huge in business.
What's been the biggest learning in business?
Oh boy, today or yesterday or the day before or the day before that. It's an incredible journey, businesses and being an entrepreneur and navigating your way through that. And so many of your audience knows that. A singular learning, I don't know. I mean, obviously every day there's transactional learnings, but I think probably for me overall, and I guess maybe this is just me and what we do, but really that relationships do matter. Just thinking we're just doing business for the sake of a transaction or a business engagement is really pretty shallow thinking from my perspective. And what I've learned from others is if you invest in relationships and you invest in people that say this carefully, that matter to your business, it always seems to return value at some point. It may take a long time, but respecting the fact that there are people out there that can influence your path personally on your path as a business, I think is a really important, general learning for me. There's lots I've learned about markets and, who to not deal with and who to deal with and all that fun stuff. Been down that road, but generally speaking, I think it's about learning from people.
Thank you. As you chart your path and look forward through the next 3 to 5 years, what are going to be your top 2 or 3 challenges that your company is going to face in the next journey as it progresses?
Well, that's a great question, actually, because we, as business leaders, I'm sure, again, many businesses out there do this sort of thinking all the time, right? You're doing risk mitigation and trying to figure out what's going to hit us in the next 3 years that could be a real problem for us, and also where are the opportunities, right? Where's the puck going? So for us, that's kind of a constant, pressure, I suppose, but a good one. And in our world, Kent, we're constantly reading what geographical markets are evolving and what they're doing. Where's the opportunity out in that? So you look at Europe, for instance, and Germany's recent announcement this week about having to go back onto coal, right? And having to burn coal again. And of course, this is a pretty major announcement in Europe, but it opens up amazing opportunities around clean coal technologies in the fourth largest, economy in the world. So these are the things that we're constantly looking at. What's going to change our world in a significant way that's going to create opportunities for our Rainmaker clients. So there's lots of it happening all the time. You can look at the States and what's happening in the States. Look at potential recession coming down the path in Canada, albeit not necessarily in Alberta, and what that looks like, because it looks like Alberta will likely skate by that while the rest of the country sort of maybe gets hit. Now, that's one man's opinion. We'll see what happens, but that creates both opportunities and challenges, right? So all these things, we're looking to grow Rainmaker internationally we're just under 50 Rainmakers around the world right now. We'd like that to be 200 or 300 in the next 3 years. So our goal is on that. The question, or probably the nuance of it, will be where they'll be, right? So which markets will actually be ones we want to be in. But yeah, so there's lots of change for us coming up in the next 3 years, we hope.
So you said there's 50 Rainmakers around the world. So without getting into trade secrets, what does it mean to be a Rainmaker? And can you give us an example of what a Rainmaker would be in what country?
Yeah,
because it sounds like fun.
Yeah,
I think Texas could use some rain, but I don't think that's what we're talking about here.
Well, yeah, we don't provide it that way. But a Rainmaker in, say, Brazil or Mexico, we have Rainmakers in those markets where they are looking to help companies come into that market. So we often find companies in Canada that want to expand. We had our Rainmaker global partner from Abu Dhabi here 2 weeks ago, speaking about everything happening in the Gulf region and the opportunities that exist there. So what happens is we talk to a company here that wants to expand into Abu Dhabi or wherever, Kuwait down there. But where do you begin? And where are you going to find that first sale? And how do you have to structure that? And who should you be working with? All those questions come pouring in fairly quickly after someone goes on a trade mission down to Abu Dhabi, and okay, great market. So that's where we step in. And so our global partners in these markets are our boots on the ground to make sure they are looked after in the market. So if you will, on the receiving end, our Rainmakers are going, okay, I've got this Canadian company that wants to come into my market. How do I help them do that? How do I help them? Just like we did in 2007 when we started in Alberta. It's like, what are the challenges that a Portuguese company or a British company is going to have coming into Alberta? So we help them through all that and get them established and set up so that they can be successful in the market. So that's what they're doing in those markets, just from a receiving point of view.
Absolutely fascinating. It's probably the thing I enjoy the most about the networking and doing these interviews is you kind of look around and you get to meet people doing things. You go, that's a thing. But it's really a thing, and you kind of look at it, and so credit to you and your partners for what you've done, because I'm looking at it going, dang, that's a real thing. And you're not just impacting local businesses, you're helping 50 other economies in ways that, we kind of look at and go, is that even possible? And so in a way, congratulations, you guys are building the impossible. So amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
What is one piece of advice you would share about growing or scaling a business?
Well, the obvious one, get paid. Whatever you do, get paid somehow. Maybe not today, but get paid at some point. And this, tongue in cheek there, but at the same time, I remember starting back early days, 2007, 8, 9, where you're so desperate to get your name out there and your brand out there, you almost end up, giving your stuff away almost too soon and too much. We did that for sure. We would, as we're trying to find our market and find our footing. But 15 years in, it's different, right? You're like, you have value, you have and I think this is probably the biggest challenge for some young or early entrepreneurs is, oh, I need business. So I'll just do whatever it takes, where and you almost start to undervalue yourself. And I think the one lesson that I've slowly learned is to not do that, is to make sure that you always see what you do as highly valuable. And even if you have to walk away from something that looks like a piece of business, which we hate to do as entrepreneurs, right? It's like, I don't want to give up on that. But quite often what I've found is that I walk away from that and suddenly there'll be something else that's more designed as a great client for you, right? So keep looking for those and try to walk away from the ones that aren't going to be great clients for you. I guess that's the piece.
I think you've stolen the answer to the next question, but let's try it anyway. What's the biggest mistake you've made, if you're willing to share?
Yeah, well, we've made some big ones, and of course, again, you tweak as you go, but probably the biggest mistake we made, and I don't know what I could have done differently, but we had a large Chinese national oil company, or state-owned company coming into North America, and we built up a relationship. We worked for them for a year. We thought things were moving along very, very great and swimmingly, they suddenly, and this is nothing to do with their ethnicity or anything, but they suddenly changed strategies on us without us really being involved in that conversation. So suddenly, they shifted, and we weren't ready for that, and we weren't expecting it. We weren't expecting that shock, and it was a shock. It was they didn't pay the last significant bill, and I had paid, obviously I had staff that I was paying, and so these things are difficult as entrepreneurs. But I think what it taught us was no matter how I guess warm and fuzzy the relationship seems with your client, it can go sideways anytime. And if you're not producing value for them, and this is fair, if you're not, if it's not, if you're not producing really good value, there's a good chance it will end. And you need to either mitigate or change what you're doing to provide more value, or be ready for it to go away. So we've had a few of those, more than one, where, it came to a grinding halt on the engagement because they suddenly decided we weren't doing what they wanted us to do. And so you learn from those, and you find ways to mitigate and hope to continually provide that value, right? Because as businesses, we're all the same way. We all want value for every dollar we spend. I get it. It makes, especially in today's world, you have to do that. So it was one of the learnings.
Thank you. My favorite, and I always save the best for last, is, I think it's the best. It's my favorite anyway. We'll let you be the judge. What do you want to be known for?
It's a great question, Kent, and one that probably people cringe at trying to answer, right? I guess at the end of the day, you talk about legacy, you talk about passing on, the torch and so on to the next generation of smart people and so on. That always gets me excited of how we can help them prepare for taking on a world that I'm not going to understand, in my rocking chair on the porch sort of thing. So hopefully we're helping to tool them up. But to be honest, Rainmaker, the idea of Rainmaker, the Rainmaker, launching globally out of a place like Calgary is quite remarkable. There's not many firms like us that sort of exist in the world, let alone coming out of Calgary. So, to be known to have done that, hopefully one day, and people to look at Rainmaker and go, wow, where did that company start? It came from Calgary. Oh, wow. Like that would mean a lot to me, just to, and for no other reason other than going all the way back to the culture of Calgary and what Calgary is, that can do great. Here's an idea. Let's make it happen. Doesn't matter if it's going to be massive or whatever. That would be a great, I guess, pride point for me on what we've done. But apart from, of course, family and my kids and all that, which is the personal side. But being a good dad and grandpa is probably the number one thing. But then right behind that is Rainmaker and building something in Calgary that maybe shouldn't have happened from Calgary, sort of idea. So yeah, that would probably
Excellent.
be it.
No, thank you. That's like I said, it's my favorite question, and the answers always surprise me, because everybody has a slightly different definition of legacy. And
Yeah.
I think it is important. And we do meet people who don't quite have that dialed in yet. There's a yearning and there's something they want to share, but they haven't quite defined it yet. But it's fun to watch them squirm a little bit, because it's real, it's personal, right? We build these businesses, we spend 50, 60, 80 hours a week in them, probably to a fault. Sometimes we spend more time with our businesses than our family. You know, and I think I had a rule, there's no such rule, but if I was king for a day, I'd have a rule. And the rule would be is you have to sell your business after 10 years. Whatever state it was in, you'd have to sell it, just to force that conversation of finish or dreaming, and then take that all the thing you learned in the first 10 years and apply it in another business. So you can imagine if you took everybody who had built a business in Calgary over 30, 40 years, since 1970 something. And they all have to sell their business after 10 years. What would their next businesses look like? You know, it's a fun thing to think about, because it does force that little bit of conversation of us having a conversation with, not on the interview, but with another guy post interview. And he goes, well, I'm currently at 5 million. It's great, but I got another 5-10 years. I want to get it to 10. And I said, that's great. You got a team of 25. Here's the challenge for you. He goes, what's that? If you really want to achieve your goals, get the next 10 million and work 10% less every week. And he goes, what are you talking about? I said, well, you know, you've built this business, but the way you're currently doing it, you're going to spend the next 5 or 10 years building the next 5 million. But you're going to do that work. But in really to truly pass on your knowledge and experience and what you've built, how do we help your five horsemen, your 5 top leaders do it for you? That's truly the next prize of the challenge in that leadership role of, you've done it. That's great. How do you help these 5 senior managers do it for you or with you?
Absolutely. And that's great coaching, Kent, because, you know, it's a tough thing for a lot of entrepreneurs to do. I've found it that way too, as they put these leaders in place and you hand off, you know, components of the business that you typically would have done before yourself. And now you're trusting someone else, albeit a leader that you put in place, but you're still trusting someone else with your baby, and you're hoping they do it right. You're hoping they do it. And you know what? They won't always do it the same way you do. And that's one of the toughest parts is allowing them to do it their way a little bit. But you're right. That's for folks, you know, of my ilk or my age. And that is kind of the big question is how do you start to create something now that can run without you? Right. And that's the real tough one, I think, for us to hurdle.
Absolutely. You've been more than gracious with your time. I'm sure we're past the 30-35 minute mark. So thank you very much. Any parting comments before we say put off our goodbyes?
You know what, Kent? No, thanks for having me. I love these conversations, and especially with folks like you who are, you know, talking to companies, coaching companies, helping them to find their path, I guess, and to maybe stretch their thinking. It's so important for so many of the entrepreneurs in our city and in our country, frankly, to think outside the box. And it takes folks like yourselves to do that and to help them do that, because, you know, if you just rare is the case that can just build a business without any sort of outside coaching and help. So I appreciate what you're doing, and it's been a lot of fun. I always enjoy this. So hopefully there's some nuggets in there for some of your audience to grab onto. And thanks again for the opportunity.
You're welcome, and thank you.